Listen to the Vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I'm very honored and very blessed to have Mr. Marlon Cherry here with me today.
Hello.
Got some new music out, and we're going to talk about the new album and just learn a little bit more about him. So let's kick this off right. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Originally from North Carolina, started playing in bands down there when I was like 12 years old with my cousin's band, basically doing like R&B and funk covers. Eventually evolved into playing various other types of music, mostly rock, 70s classic rock and roll, and started doing original music in the 80s with a band called the Streets Living Theater. We were fortunate enough to do an album with Mitch Eszter, who at the time was gaining a lot of notoriety for his work with REM and their early records. And it seemed like at the time, like every band in North Carolina was driving up to Winston-Salem to record with Mitch. And we were one of the fortunate ones that got his time. I ended up moving to New York in 1987. And a few years later, I released another solo record called Pete. The first solo record I did, Life After Theater, was one that I recorded while I was still living in Charlotte. Now, all these years later, the new record is basically my fifth solo release, and I've done a lot of work with a lot of other people.
So how many instruments do you play?
All total, I haven't counted. And it's weird because, the basics of like percussion, guitar, bass, drum, vocal, that kind of stuff, that's pretty much all of it. But if you start counting like all the various percussion instruments, and, I recently started learning banjo and ukulele, but it's not something that I feel like I'm technically proficient enough at this point to where I was like, oh yeah, I'll, hire me. I'm the banjo player, But I've been enjoying learning the banjo and the baritone ukulele recently also. So I'm always looking to add, more sounds to my palette. I love playing the kazoo.
I could tell.
Kazoo guy.
I could tell. Because you did all the instruments on this album, didn't you?
Yeah, for the most part. There was one song that Terre Roche played guitar and air hu on. But other than that, all the instrumentation is me.
You have a really great voice. You remind me a lot of Doug Pinnick.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I dig the way he sings. And,
oh, me too.
And your a cappella stuff was incredible.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that song is actually a friend of mine, Susan, who also sings on that song. It's actually her song. And it was basically written, inspired by Streetcar Named Desire, the Tennessee Williams. Yeah.
Well, I tried to compare you with other musicians, but I could not pinpoint you being like anybody else. I mean, you have a jazz sound, you have a rock sound, and some pop and stuff there. But how did you get this style of music?
Well, I mean, there's just tons and tons of influences, various influences. If you were to listen to my previous solo releases, you'd hear some similarities and some things that are totally different than anything that's on this one. But Todd Rundgren is huge influence on me. He's the reason that I started, getting into playing more than one instrument. I wanted to be able to make a record without having to hire a band or deal with other personalities, basically, even as much as I do enjoy playing with other people. But, for this record, yeah, certainly like Todd Rundgren, Paul Weller, George Harrison, and a lot of the world music stuff that I've been listening to lately and for quite some time, Ali Farka Tour, just various music from all over the world. But yeah, certainly pop, jazz, rock. I love it all,
Yeah, and you didn't try to make each song sound the same.
There was no
different styles mixed in.
Yeah, definitely. I never had like a real cohesive concept in mind as far as sounds and styles go for this one particular record. So it is a bit all kind of like all over the place.
And what's your process of writing a song?
Basically an idea will come to mind from either a sound standpoint. I might hear something, a sound on the street, or the rhythm of the kitchen sink linking or something like that. As far as like lyrically, it could be anything. Like the sleep talking song, the very first full song on the CD. I was listening to an interview with the guys from Flight of the Conchords, and they were talking about the filming late at night in New York City, and they would find like an all-night diner where they could chill out between scenes. And one of the guys just kept falling asleep, and because they filming at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and he's telling the radio interviewer like, "Yeah, I'm, sleep talking now." Like he was actually not even awake as he was doing the interview. And he's like, "I'm sleep talking now," and I was like, "Holy shit, I like that." And I just started writing it down, and I woke up the next morning and I just started fooling around with various lines and stuff, and it came about kind of like that. And I don't have like a real stream of consciousness sort of, way of approaching lyrics. A music thing for me, I might be fooling around with a guitar or a rhythm thing, and I'll just let it build, simmer like a stew over days and days and keep adding little bits and pieces here. I don't even think about arranging anything until I feel like I've got enough of a structure to actually have something to arrange. So, it's kind of hit or miss with me. I don't have a consistent process, I would say.
Are you into spoken poetry? Because I know she had
Oh
some
yeah.
on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Sophie Malleret, who is on the final cut, um, Pour Over Radio Tunes Yellowed. That's her original piece. I had asked her to, I had been accompanying her and a few other poets here in New York during readings. And she's one of the ones whose voices I just couldn't get out of my head. And I was just like, I want your voice on my record. And I'll just let you do whatever you want to do. And everything else was just totally improv. We did like one take with her, and she was like, "Well, I'm not so crazy about the way that I read it." And I was like, "Well, let's just do another take." And while she was doing the second take, I started, improvising on percussion and stuff like that. And when we went back and listened to it, I was like, is there a possibility that we could use both takes, simultaneously, just, hard left and hard right panning. And that idea just seemed to work for us at the time. We really liked what we got out of
That lady could read the phone book, and I would enjoy listening
it.
to it.
Yeah, I know. She's got a nice, sweet, little unique voice. And, the French accent is really kind of a treat as well.
Right? And then you break out into a song. It's almost like a sympathy for the devil type song.
Yeah, yeah, that's, I love the Stones actually, but yeah, that was more, I mean, I guess the influence would have definitely been more of a Santana influence as far as like the heavy percussion and, crazy guitar stuff.
You have this sound that I could hear the Doors doing, or or even the Rolling Stones or Santana. That's why
Yeah,
it's so unique.
yeah. The whole idea is just to get the music out to as many people as possible. I have no grand ambitions about, fame and fortune, but I do like the idea of, any artist getting their music out to as many people who will respond to it positively or negatively, but just, getting it out to the ears and eyes of people as, far and wide as possible.
Well, you've always been like working on other people's stuff, and now it's your time to shine.
Yeah. Well, I'm still working on other people's stuff, even as we speak. I've got a couple of other projects with other people that I'm really excited about and enjoying working with them.
And how many different bands have you worked with?
Oh God, over the years there's been, I I'd have to do a count, but currently I'm working with three other groups here in New York that I'm really excited about. One is called Baba Bibi, and that is led by Stu Stewart, who has a group called Stew and the Negro Problem. They actually won a Tony Award in 2008 for their musical Passing Strange, which Spike Lee eventually turned into a film. And I'm also working with Eszter Balint on a project that is basically a musical memoir of hers. It's a stage production, but she did release a recording recently of the music from it. And Eszter is primarily more known as an actress than for her music. She was the lead in Jim Jarmusch's Stranger Than Paradise and a few other films. She was also at the time, the current love interest of Louis C.K. on his show when all of that stuff went down. So she's done a lot of film work, but she's also done a lot of music stuff, especially with the downtown New York scene of people like John Lurie and, various other downtown New York artists.
Has there been anybody that you've wanted to work with that you haven't got to yet?
Oh God, I when I first moved here, I didn't know a single person in New York, and then all of a sudden, I started meeting all of these various people. I think for me right now is just like I'm working with so many different people that I actually just admire the hell out of, but also I'm learning from them. So it's I can't think of a single like big name person that I was like, oh, it would be my dream to work with this person. Probably Todd Rundgren. If I were going to name one person, it would, more than likely be Todd Rundgren that I would love to work with.
Yeah, if I met someone like him, I'd retire after that. That'd be the ultimate. So, has there been any obstacles in your life that you've had to overcome?
Well, I mean, it's nothing that is like outrageously, climbing Everest kind of stuff. Just the normal stuff that everyone else kind of goes through, like just average Joe type people going through their daily lives. I wasn't born into any kind of affluence, so I've been basically working class my entire life, and just whatever obstacles come along with that, but nothing that I would like say, oh, well, I did this and I overcame that and look at me now kind of thing. Now it's just life. You go through life, the ups and downs, and you keep going, you pursue your goals, you pursue your dreams, and either you succeed or fail on whatever level that you succeed or fail on, but you just keep living.
What do you like to do outside of music?
Oh wow, I love reading. I'm an avid reader. I read a lot of books. I love to party. I like to party. I like the nightlife, But yeah, no, I mean, I love nature. I love, living in New York City, you don't get to experience nature to the degree that I experienced growing up in North Carolina. So any chance I get to be in a nature type of environment, I absolutely embrace that to the fullest. But yeah, I don't have a lot of real outside hobbies other than music. I'm such a music freak. It's pretty much what I do all the time. If I'm at home, I'm listening to music or working on music. I do like, the other art forms. I love cinema and theater, dance, and various other art forms, but that's pretty much my life.
Are you going to retire in the future, or are you just planning on doing this the rest of your life?
Yeah. My mom keeps asking me about like saving for retirement. It's like, Mom, I'm a musician. I don't see myself retiring. Yeah, I mean, you look at someone like, UB Blake and all these other guys. I mean, look at the Stones now, and I'm not doing anything even close to, would considered as physically taxing as they do. And, so yeah, as long as I'm able to make some noise and people are willing to have me make noise with them, um, I'm all down for that, no matter what age I, am at the time.
Well, as I always say, I think Keith Richards died about 20 years ago, but his body just didn't figure it out yet.
I love that guy. I love Keith today. I think I love Keith more than I love the Stones.
Let's see, he's been dead for years, but he's got so many chemicals in him. It just keeps
Yeah,
going and keeps going.
yeah, yeah. And he still sounds good, So yeah,
Oh,
he's got what it takes, definitely.
what surprises me is I will go to a show and the guys that are on stage are like in their 70s, but
Yeah.
they may not move like it, but they still sound like they're in their 20s.
Yeah, yeah. I've been really in awe of a lot of the people that, I've seen recently. I saw a John Cale show over the summer, and he just turned 82, I think, and he was just awesome. I mean, his voice sounded great, his playing was great. He had this great crack band behind him, and that's really inspiring, to see these guys that I remember, I was listening to in my 20s, and I never really thought about how old they were at that time. And, at that time, they were 15, 20 years older than me. But, they were still, considered young and viable. Now they're old and viable, but I'm telling you, that John Cale show just blew me away.
So what is your instrument of choice?
Well, if I had to say an instrument of choice where it was like, I'm going to do this, go on an extended tour with someone for a couple of years and this is all I'm going to do, it would definitely be percussion. I mean, because there's so many different percussion instruments that I get to either add or take away from my setup depending on who I'm playing with. So it's just like being a kid with a bunch of toys, basically. I love playing guitar, electric guitar, because of all the little effects pedals and stuff that I get. So it's another toy thing, it's just like something to play with where you feel like a kid again, rather than like this staunch, serious musician kind of thing, So yeah, I'd love to keep the childish factor into it. So percussion would definitely be the thing for me because there's just so many toy-like things involved.
You put a passion in your music.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think this is probably the most soulful solo recording that I've done, and I think a lot of that just came with age, and thinking of not just the recording process, but the performance as having more feel, and the feel being as important as anything technically that was going on. But yeah, the passion, I can feel it more in this record than any of the other things that I've done as a solo artist.
Are you looking to make a concept album to where you could say, this is my Sergeant Pepper's?
That's funny. I've thought I've had a million ideas along those lines, but it would take a lot of time to bring something like that to fruition. I heard a recent, well, not recent, I recently heard Andrew Gold's record that he put out in '97. That was basically kind of like a Sergeant Pepper takeoff, and it is absolutely amazing. So, and then there's been like the Ruddles and Utopias That Face the Music, and XTC with the Dukes of Stratosphere, so there's been a lot of those kind of things. I think that would be better left to people who would just do it way much better than I would.
Well, are you working on the next album?
No, I'm currently getting ready to do some recording with a good friend of mine, Chris Cochrane. We have a little trio together. He's a real kind of heavyweight New York guitarist. Has played with Marc Ribot and Zeena Parkins and a lot of other avant-garde people. And we put this trio together about a year and a half ago. And I'm just really loving playing it. And this is a situation where I'm just playing bass guitar and singing backing vocals. And Chris is playing acoustic guitar for a change because he's mostly noted as an electric guitarist. And we have this amazing electric guitarist, Sulin Hago, rounding out the trio. There's no percussion so far, but I think by the time we get into the studio, we will add some percussion to the mix.
Are you willing to put a band together and maybe take this album on the road?
Oh boy, I've been asked that question a few times over the last couple of weeks, actually, and the answer is absolutely not, because I see all of the various people that I play with, and I see what they have to go through just to arrange a rehearsal, getting everyone's schedules together and everything. I don't know what it's like in various other places, but I know New York is one of those places where everybody is playing on so many different projects. It's hard to arrange lunch together. But I see them like, back and forth with the emails. This person can't make it that day, but this person could make that date. And it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I see their heads exploding. Why would I want my head to explode like that?
If people want to purchase the album, where can they go to get it?
It is available on Bandcamp. And that's for the physical CDs as well as downloading and streaming. I know it's, available for download and streaming on Spotify and iTunes and Apple and Hear Music and all. There's when you go to CD Baby, they just kind of like distribute it to pretty much every outlet that's out there. So I know for a fact that it's on TikTok as well, even though there's, I'm never going to tune into TikTok for anything, probably. Yeah. I'm pretty much limited to Facebook and Instagram, and mostly I just use it for promoting my music and promoting the music of my colleagues, and other our art projects, and to keep it light and fun. It's like what we were speaking of before the interview started. It was like you won't find pretty much anything political or socio-political on any of my social media, because I just don't do that. I just don't think it's it's not me. It's just not me.
Well, it's nice to be able to listen to something and just enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
I get enough of the politics on social media and the media and everywhere else.
Yeah.
And I just want to be entertained.
Yeah, exactly. At this juncture, that's a nice thing. Just want to be entertained.
Exactly. So you don't have a website, do you?
No, I do not have my own site. That may change soon. I'm, as you can tell, from the way this interview has gone, I'm not very big on tech. And, I've got like the ancient laptop and an Android.
I have to ask my grandkids half the time how to do stuff on the computer. So
yeah.
But Marlon, this has really been a blessing to have you on my show.
No, thank you so much for having me. Definitely. I really appreciate it, without a doubt.
Again, Marlon, thank you for being on my show. And I also want to thank all of you out there. If you are new to the channel, well, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. And for my regulars, you guys rock because you make it possible for me to do this. And until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.